It is a fact that Jesus Christ instituted a church to continue His work here on earth. And He gave His church many visible signs by which all men can know which is His true church. And He gave these visible signs precisely, and He made it visible so there can be no doubt whatsoever that man can find his true church. We have seen in the past vignettes some of these visible signs that Christ gave His church. In general, we can describe it as signs by which her master also have the signs. So in other words, the church has to be exactly like her master, Jesus Christ. Most of these signs, as we analyze them, are hardly found in the separated brethren of ours, but we find it also blurred in our own church. It is quite difficult to find it. You sort of have to dig deeper to find these signs in our church. One of the signs that we have discussed is the fact that the Catholic Church is like a field with cockles and wheat. And we join another statement of Christ to the fact that Christ said, "Many are called, but few are chosen." Meaning to say, it is a sign of the true church of Christ that there are many cockles and very few wheat. Now, if you notice, most of our separated brethren claim always that their group are all saved, that they are pure wheat. It has been so since the time of Calvin, wherein he organized a sect that he called saints. All of them were saints. Well, in the Catholic Church, we never make such a claim. In fact, we should claim that there are many cockles and very few wheat. But the problem is that the Catholic Church is not saying so. We seem to give the impression that all Catholics go to heaven, just like our separated brethren. We should come out more clearly that many are called into the Catholic Church, but very few Catholics are going to be saved. That's the teaching of Christ, and that is the sign of the Catholic Church. To look for cockles in the Catholic Church is very easy. Practically, all the people that we know who are guilty of graft and corruptions are Catholics. What is difficult is to find the few. The few is quite difficult to find because, saints by their very nature live their holy lives in secret. Their fasting is in secret, their good works are in secret, and all the things that they do while praying are done in secret. So it's quite difficult to look for the few. And therefore, when one looks at the Catholic Church, what he sees is just the cockle, the bad ones. The Catholic Church should come out very clearly what Christ said, that the way towards perdition is a broad highway in which many people go, but the way towards God is narrow and straight. And they have to emphasize the fact that many will try the narrow and straight road, but few are going to make it. Let us go back to the statement of Christ that many are called but few are chosen. And let us dwell briefly into the foreknowledge of God. Now, the foreknowledge of God states that God knows the future. I mean, that's obvious. Everybody knows that. And so God knows also who are going to be saved and who are going to be damned. Without God, of course, causing the salvation or the damnation of anyone, He just knows, but He is not the cause. And so God knows very well that many will be called, not all, but many, but few will be chosen. Now, God very well knows who are the few who are going to be chosen. They are going to be chosen by their own choice. And so God established His church. And all the people that will run through the history of His Catholic Church, like at the beginning, St. Paul and so on, all of these, His church and the structure in the Catholic Church were meant to work for the salvation of the few only. And so St. Paul was very clear when he was saying that he was working so hard. He was trying to talk to many, but he knows very well that only the few will listen to him and believe. And the Catholic Church knows that very well. We are always working for the few, but since we do not know who are the few, we go to many. We speak to many, we preach to many, hoping that we would reach the few. Of course, the few are people who would accept Christ. They would learn His commandments, how to obey them, and they would obey His commandments. And so therefore, somebody has to teach them what are the commandments of Christ and how to obey them. That's why apostles were called sent, because God sends them to this elect, to this chosen few. Though most often when Christ speaks to a crowd, one or two of them were chosen. So God would send them to these 2 or 3 by making St. Paul, speak to the many. By speaking to the many, he reached the few that God knows would be saved. A moment ago, we discussed the fact that it is easy to find the many who are bad in the Catholic Church, but almost impossible to find the few. And so people will have such a hard time really looking for the few. To find the few, you have to be one among the few. And so for the multitude, they will never find the few in the Catholic Church. Besides, we mentioned the fact that the saints always live their Christian life in secret. The formula for membership among the few is that you must live a life that is concentrated on pleasing God alone by obeying God alone. Now, these saints, these few, do this so secretively that in most cases, they are the people that we slander, we hurt, we ridicule, we look down, and we make fun of. And so, you see, as long as we are not seeking God, these few chosen are the dregs of the earth. They are down there. People that seems to deserve no respect from us. And yet it always happens that if we begin to work so hard that we may become among the few, you will see them rise slowly with us in our sight, in holiness, and always a little more above us. In the last vignette, we mentioned to you the fact that though many are called and few are chosen, which means many would be lost, this is not a sign of the triumph of the devil. Because when Christ gave us the gospel and instituted the Catholic Church, His intention was not to save everybody, not even to save the many, but in order to save the few. Let us face it, and let this truth sink into our hearts, that we cannot make many people religious, and it is difficult to lessen the number of bad people in this world. We have just simply to work on ourselves, be contented in working for our personal salvation. Here are the characteristics of the many, not the few, the many who would not be chosen. They are the ordinary Catholics, they call themselves, and they always think it is enough to do what they have done. They think it fair to resent insults, to repay injuries, and they want to show some certain degree of pride, like be proud of yourself. They always insist on their rights. They're jealous of their honor, protecting it all the time. When in the wrong, they refuse to admit it. They seek to be rich and desire to be well known in the world. And they always fear the righteous way of living. They seldom think about the day of judgment, of death, of their past sins. They pray, but only very little, and they have a very little care for the Catholic Church. Now, such is not the characteristic of the elect or the chosen, but of the many. To be among the chosen, on the other hand, you simply have to be humble and meek, and being so, you become fit for instruction. And being fit for instruction, Christ will teach you how to be among the few. And if you obey His instruction, Christ will begin to consider you as His own. God bless you.